So there he was, face fully bandaged, not able, holding on to, all the tubes. Yeah. And he'd be like, Marine, we need to get it together. If I can do this, you can do this.
Look at me, right.
Yeah.
Right.
And he would just, I always laugh that his inspirational speaking started right there in the hospital going around. And he just sort of got this reputation. Sometimes we'd go back for visits and they're like, can you just come talk to this patient?
Welcome to Being the Change, the official podcast of James Madison University, brought to you by Madison Magazine. Each episode brings you stories of how members of the JMU community combine intellect with action to live lives of purpose and meaning. That's Being the Change.
What's up, JMU? Andy Perrine here. Welcome to Being the Change. We've got a wonderful episode today, and it's all about caring and connection, and it sews together different generations and people from different walks of life, and it tells a beautiful story of an alumnus, Justin Constantine, who was a class of 92. Some of you in the listening audience may be familiar with Justin's name. The university promoted him and his good works quite a great deal. He was injured in Iraq, almost mortally so, and he recovered miraculously and turned his life into an inspiration. And he spoke at commencement here at the university, and we've done a lot of stories of him. Sadly, he passed away in 2022. He had cancer. But we have three guests with us to tell this really interesting story. Justin's wife, Dhalia Constantine, is with us. Dhalia, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you all.
Oh, well, thank you for being here. And Racheal Fletcher, who was Racheal Enkler, she was class of 05 at JMU. She came here from Iowa to be with us today on campus. Racheal, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad I could be here.
Awesome. And Samantha Cornell is a first-year student here at JMU, and you're going to just absolutely adore how she ties into this story as we weave this narrative in a way that is so endemic of JMU and being the change that you're going to love this. All right, we ready to go?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. Let's do it.
Well, so that folks in our audience who may not know of Justin's life, Dhalia, I'd love for you to give us some, a 350,000-foot view of what was a really tremendous life lived by Justin, even though he struggled through what was a horrendous injury.
I met Justin in the spring of 2006. We were in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and we were in a Spanish class together. I was there from California, and he was there from Virginia, and we ended up in the tiniest little class of 4 people. And the first memory of Justin is I thought I had a private class. No one else was there. And then in walks this big, strong Marine.
Right.
And I was like, I have to share a class, but he's hot. I get to share it with him. Let's do it.
Why not?
And his first comment to me was correcting my grammar in our oral exercises with the professor. So
always trying to help. Justin's always trying to help.
She's like, I'm just trying to help you learn the subjunctive. We hit it off immediately. It was just one of those immediate soulmate recognition against the backdrop of Buenos Aires, Argentina. We didn't know at that time he was going to be deploying. He was a reservist, but he was telling me they were deploying a lot of lawyers to do civil affairs. Right. And he had this big responsibility that a lot of his friends, a lot of his Marines were married and had children. And he said, how can I have them go and not me? And we were preparing that this might be a thing. And he was only in Argentina 3 weeks. So this all happened very quickly. He went back to the United States, and I was in Argentina still for another couple of months, and he sends me that email. I still remember being at that little computer cafe in our language school, Bridge Linguatech, and he said, it's happening. I'm going to be deploying. I'm going to start, I'm activating. And we knew, and I knew just the way he was. I will tell you this, Justin's soul has always been about helping others. When we were there, he had 2 women. He was at the government at the time, and there were 2 women who were who did cleaning work there, and both of them were studying for their citizenship exam, and he was a little stressed out that he wasn't going to be there when they had their citizenship exam.
Right.
And he, this was 2006, long distance calling cards, and he called just to make sure he wished them luck on their exam. So that's who he always was.
That's very Justin. And for our listeners, he wasn't just a big hot Marine. He was kind of a Renaissance man.
Complete Renaissance man. So we were in Spanish class together. He already spoke fluent German. He had grown up in Europe and the United States. As I always say, he reads more books and watches more TV than anyone I know. And usually those 2 things don't go together.
Right.
Athlete, artist, musician. He just loves learning, exploring the whole world, always taking classes. Like he's in so many fellowships and programs in DC and in New York. So we always joke with his business partner. He'd be like, I got to cut this meeting short. I've got guitar class and then I'm going swimming, So it's Justin. He loves the world.
And for those of you who are listening attentively, Dhalia is using present tense for Justin, even though he's gone 3 years now. You still believe he's with you?
He's with me every day. In fact, me coming to JMU, he was in my dream saying, I think you should start to do speaking events again, because Justin was an inspirational speaker after his injury. And I said to him, I have nothing to say now. I have nothing to inspire people with the way you did. And he goes, can you just do some speaking events? I think you're ready. The next day, Paula Polglass,
she's head of JMU Alumni Association,
sent me an email about the stewardship lunch, and she said, we'd like you to come again, but this year we want you to speak. And I thought, well played, Justin, coming through JMU. So there's no mistake.
Did you ask Paula whether or not Justin came to her too?
I sent it to Paula, and she said, of course. Because Paula and I have often talked about the present tense. So for Justin, he's always with me.
Right.
He's always in my head. We're always talking. He sends me 10 million signs a day of things that cannot be anything but Justin. And I do believe our souls are way more than our bodies. And Justin's soul is way bigger than most people, if anything.
So he goes to Iraq. He's deployed in 2006. And he's there only 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And what happened?
I will never get that time period out of my head. I was in England at the time studying. And the night before, we were on Google Chats, and he said...
a brand new thing at the time.
It was very fancy.
Right.
And he said, I'm going out tomorrow on a patrol. Don't worry, but we're going across the wire. I'm going to call you as soon as I'm back. And that meant, the satellite phones, which were terrible. And I know because my dad was deployed at the same time. And I said, okay, woke up the next morning. And he said, there'll be a message when you wake up. Well, I woke up, and there's no message from Justin. And I thought, okay, let me check my email. Nothing from Justin. And I thought, this is a war zone. Communications are down. It's okay. Don't worry. But I think a lot of us who have been through these events, you get this feeling in the pit of your stomach that's unmistakable. I went off, and I was going out of town. I was in Cambridge in England, and I was going in a taxi to a conference out of town. On my way there, now I normally love cemeteries. I'm a writer. I think they're beautiful storytelling places. But I see this cemetery, and my heart sinks even more. And I asked the taxi driver, what is that? And he said, that's the American cemetery from World War II. And as soon as he said that, I knew something.
It was an omen.
It was an omen. I went to the conference, came back, and there was nothing. Finally, I opened my email, and there's a message. Now, Justin's mother's name is Judith Constantine. Justin Constantine. So when you're panicked and looking at first glance, I thought it was from him, but the subject line, and I don't know how a mother whose son has gone through this has the energy to email me in this way, but her subject line said, Justin is okay, Dhalia. Because I had just met Justin, a few months earlier. So,
well, you must have made an impression on Mom.
we were just so immediate. We met each other's families immediately. He had asked my dad for my hand in marriage the first time.
Honorable thing.
Yes. And I was in England. I immediately called Landstrow. I still don't know how it all happened. And I was immediately on a bus to the airport to Frankfurt, and off I went, and I was just with him right away. And I have to tell you that the very Justin moment, he couldn't talk. The doctor sat me down before I was allowed in, said he's not going to recognize you. He doesn't know anything. He's been hit. Because the first initial call to his parents was killed in action. They didn't know, they didn't imagine he would survive that.
A sniper hit him right behind his left ear, and it came out his right side of his face.
Yeah.
And in fact, the corpsmen, their sniper was still shooting. And they said, keep going, he's dead. Keep going, the major's dead. And he said, I just want to try one more time. And Corpsman George Grant, had
Saved
only
his
done
life.
this operation once in a clinical setting on a pig. And he did the emergency tracheotomy on him in the battlefield
While the sniper's
bullets
still
are shooting,
right.
blood covered, 110-degree weather. If it had been anyone else, I don't know what would have happened. I wouldn't have gotten those extra 16 years with Justin. And Corman Grant, I think, was 24 maybe at the time, a baby himself going through it. And, you know, one of our guests later will know this, but our medical teams in the battlefield see so much and do so much. And I just went to Justin immediately, and they said, he's not going to be able to talk. He can't recognize you. He doesn't know what's going on. They opened the door, and all I was thinking was, just let me see him.
Right.
Just let me see him. They opened the door, and I'll never get this out of my head. He's bandaged from head to toe, and it's just one eye that's showing. And I just looked in that eye, and I was like, we're going to be okay. And he tried to get out of bed, and it took 3 nurses to pull him back down because he didn't know what was going on. And he could amazingly write notes. He couldn't talk, and we didn't know for the first few weeks if he would be able to talk again or not, just because, you know,
His jaw was gone.
yeah, and the trach where it had got in had vocal cords been cut with all the swelling. But I said to him, like, baby, and he wrote, clearly wasn't fully aware of what was going on. He wrote, we've never been to Germany together. We should go out and do something.
That's a Renaissance man for
That
you.
tells you everything you need to know
Right.
about Justin from the hospital bed.
Well, Germany's
trying
fun.
to travel. Yeah, he had German. He had a German minor, speaks fluent German, and
Right.
had lived in Germany and Austria as a kid.
Oh, that's amazing. He was immediately off the battlefield and in the hospital in Germany. After recuperating enough to travel, he came stateside.
Yes.
And so where did he go?
He went to what was then Bethesda Naval Medical. One of the hardest moments of that journey is I was with him in Landstuhl, and they said, you're going to be able to fly with him back to Bethesda. And then at the last second, you know, that was a hot time, 2006. The injuries were coming in left and right. There were too many injured, you know, people, and they had to put them on the plane. And I still never get his face because he didn't understand why I wasn't going with him. So I had to run back to England, get my stuff, and then I just went right to Bethesda.
Right.
We've been inseparable ever since.
Right, right. And so Racheal was a Navy nurse, right? And you wound up taking care of Justin, but you had no idea that there was a connection. Is that right?
No. I was a fresh nurse. Dhalia says she didn't realize I had been a nurse for, I say, like 5 minutes. I had been a nurse for a year before I met them. So because this was 2006, I had graduated JMU in 2005. And I was a fresh nursing officer. I went to Bethesda, which is one of the big 3 hospitals that usually new nurses go to after officer school. And there was a ward there called 5 East. It was a famous ward in the hospital because it was very busy. It was right after Fallujah. It was very busy during Fallujah. It was very busy after that and in the war in Afghanistan when that ramped up. So we got Iraq and Afghanistan veterans war wounded constantly. When they presented the floors that we could go to, I said, well, that looks hard and I need to get better. So I'm going to go there.
Wow.
Because I said I need time management practice. I need better prioritization as a nurse. And it sounds scary, so I'm going to go there. And it was the best experience of my life. I'm still friends with the 5 East nurses that I was there with. We were in it together. We've all deployed since then. And I just remember walking into, and I was, like I said, a nurse for like 5 minutes, and I was a fresh little, half new grad, and I walked into their room, and Justin, first of all, there's Dhalia, who looks amazing, and I'm like, gosh, she looks good. And then they just look so cute together. And Justin literally goes, how are you doing today? And like half of his face is like,
gone.
gone.
Right.
And like he could barely even mouth the words. And he's like, how are you? And he sincerely wanted to know how my day was going.
Right.
And I was like, I like you guys. So I spent a lot of time in their room. And we were just talking earlier how Dhalia said, she said, oh, people said, why do you feel like you need to get dressed all the time? And apparently I told her, you just need to do whatever feels good right now, because the spouses, the men and women that were with the military, survivors, like they went through so much as caregivers, and she was by his side all the time. And I wasn't surprised that they got married. And I didn't know you guys had just met.
We had met.
I thought that they had been together for like 15 years. I mean, the way that their relationship was, it was just incredible.
Well, when you meet in Argentina.
Yeah.
April Fool's was our first day. October 18th was his injury.
Well, and you talk about being a baby right out of school, but you come from a military family, and so you had it in you from your upbringing to be poised and to face those kinds of challenges. Isn't that right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
My mom was in the Navy when women weren't really in the military a whole lot. So both my parents were in the Navy, but my mom definitely paved the way for like a lot of women in the military. And she had to be the only woman at a lot of duty stations and, you know, pumping after she had me in the smoky bathroom. It's like all that stuff that just wasn't really women centered in the military.
Sure.
So my parents were happy that I joined the Navy and not something else.
Well, y'all look good in your dress whites.
Oh, thank you.
Well, now, you did not know about the connection.
No, none of us did. We didn't put it. We had no. I guess we never discussed it.
We were busy with other things.
Yeah, we were busy.
It was other things. So, how did you find out that you both went to JMU?
So, while I was at Bethesda in 2006, actually, and it was during the time when I met you all that I tried out to be a Redskins cheerleader because I wasn't busy enough. I guess I had been on the Dukettes at JMU. I had danced my whole life, and I said, "Well, yeah, I'll try out for the Redskins. They're my home team." Made the team, thankfully, and then was doing that while I was on active duty with the commander's permission. And it was kind of a morale booster for the floor. I mean, you know, I tried to hide it when like the commandant came around, but a lot of the guys, you know, the corpsman would say, "Hey, your nurse is the Redskins cheerleader," and they'd be all excited. It was something that they could concentrate on, like the games, rather than thinking about their injuries. Yeah. And JMU found out that I had joined the Navy and done the Redskins thing, so they wrote an article. And it was during that time on, I think, the Be the Change or something, where I looked at the thing, the header, what's it called? And my picture was on it, and right below it was Justin's. And I'm like, I know that face. And this was in 2010, I think, or something like that.
And you wrote us.
Yeah, and I wrote you guys, and I said, "Hey, I know him. Like, I was his nurse," which... crazy enough, divine intervention, that's happened many, many, many times where I have met family members taking care of family members of patients that I had previously at Bethesda. So it was just incredible that we had that connection. And then further along, I did the Miss Veteran American competition in 2015, and I know Jazz Booth, who heads up Final Salute Inc. That helps out women veterans. So I did a lot of women veteran advocacy during that time, and she wrote me one day, and we're friends now after the competition and subsequent documentary, and she wrote me and she said, "Do you know Justin Constantine?" I said, "Oh yeah, I totally know him and Dhalia." And we had kind of lost touch at the time, but I still felt like I knew what was going on in their lives, and I got to follow his motivational speaking and just the whole connection. We were like, of course we all went to JMU.
Yeah. Well, and of course you both had Be the Change profiles written about you. And so this was about 2010. So Justin had recovered to the point where he was now finding his voice as an inspirational speaker. And he was got connected with the Wounded Warrior Project. Yeah. And that's how the university became aware of his story. Yeah. And so we wanted to tell his story, and you both wound up being on the Be the Change page.
Yeah.
Divine.
And now you're on the Being the Change podcast with them.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah, he did so much incredible work for veterans.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I just kept reading about him. I mean, it was just amazing.
Dhalia, tell the listeners a little bit about what he did after he recovered, and how he was so interested with the Iraq and Back effort, and then the Wounded Warriors, to really help his fellow warriors.
You know, it started when he was still in the hospital. And in the ICU, you know, you bond with families. The hospital at that time, and especially military hospitals, are bonding places. You know, it's a big connection. And he was, you know, doing well. He was up practicing, walking around, trying to get back in shape as fast as possible. And he was older than most of the people injured were about 18, 19. Justin was 36. He was like an old man on the floor. And people would come tell me, parents, your husband's doing so. They kept calling it my husband because in the military, you're just married. This is girlfriend business. So they're like, he's doing so well. Do you think he can come talk to my son? And sometimes Dr. Kumar at the time would be like,
I love
the best, Dr. Kumar.
Yeah.
So he's like, can he come talk to it? And, he was already leading. So there he was, face fully bandaged, not able, holding on to, all the tubes. Yeah. And he'd be like, Marine, we need to get it together. If I can do this, you can do this.
Look at me, right.
Yeah. And he would just, I always laugh that his inspirational speaking started right there in the hospital going around. And he just sort of got this reputation. Sometimes we'd go back for visits and they're like, can you just come talk to this patient? So that started, and he realized, wow, I have a big impact. Of course, in typical Justin fashion, he's like, it doesn't matter that I'm saying. I'm like, are you seeing this? Like, people are emailing me saying their son started eating. Rachael knows. Sometimes people would throw the tray across because they're young men.
They'd be
mostly
angry.
So angry.
Their lives were changed.
Amputees that they didn't know they had, to wake up. And rightful anger to go through that. And he's like, I'm not making a difference. I'm like, I have all these parents messaging me. So you are. And he started like, oh, let's volunteer with this organization. Let's volunteer with this organization. Wounded Warrior Project, they were giving him an award. And he always remembers the backpack he received from Wounded Warrior Project when he was a patient. And he said that always impacted him because it meant someone really cared. That they came and left this backpack and then they were giving him an award. He didn't know. We had to go to New York. And I was like, Justin, we need to go to New York. He's like, I think I'm really busy with work that weekend. I'm like, we need to go to New York this weekend. And he, got an award for all the work he was doing and then eventually became on the board of Wounded Warrior Project. Yeah. I do have to backtrack and tell you the Iraq and Back t-shirt story. Yeah. We were at the beach, actually at Michael Murphy's parents, who's another JMU grad, one of Justin's best friend, rugby player.
Anybody attached to rugby at JMU knows about Murph.
Murph. Yeah, right. We were at his parents' beach house. They had said, we want you all to take a break and come here. And, Justin has a facial injury, a disfigurement. People stare wherever he went, especially in the early days. Right. And he knew it was natural, but it still bothered him. So we went to one of those shops at the beach that make t-shirts. And he's like, well, if people know what's happened to me, maybe they'll feel embarrassed to say something. Right. So he originally made them so they would stop staring. So the shirt was so simple, just said Iraq and Back. And we laughed because Justin's parents lived in Iraq and the correct pronunciation is Iraq and they lived in Baghdad. They're like, doesn't sound right, Justin saying Iraq. He's like, but it rhymes with Back. So mom and dad, lay up, okay? You haven't lived there since the 60s. Right. So we had those t-shirts made. Instead of quieting people, those t-shirts were a conversation starter. People would come up and say, I just want to thank you for your service. Thank you so much. Or my cousin served in Afghanistan. Or let me tell you my story. He ended up helping more wounded warriors. Right. That way. So I was like, I'm sorry, you're destined for this. You can't stop people from talking to you.
Well, and how his face was after all the surgeries, and it was clearly a struggle for him to articulate. And that alone would be an inspiration. Like, gosh, if he can get over that,
I can.
I can do it too. And that's why he was such an inspiration. Well, now let's fast forward because Samantha's been sitting here listening attentively to the conversation. And this is the beautiful connection and how all this loops together and why the three of them are on campus today. So fast forward, unfortunately, Justin was diagnosed with cancer and his fraternity brothers and his rugby pals started a GoFundMe to help with some of the expenses. In fact, some famous rugby ballers got involved, and it turned out to be a lot of money.
A lot of money. Right. We were like so shocked how quickly it went viral. Right. From the $5 to the $10,000 to the $25,000, and it was just a big JMU effort.
And so, unfortunately, he passed away. Yeah. And there's all this money still in the GoFundMe. And Dhalia and her beautiful spirit and her connection to Justin decided to put that money to good use in another way. So what did you do?
I said this money came because of JMU Connections. This money's going to go right back to JMU Connections. And I called JMU and I said, I'd love to do a scholarship in Justin's name. And I just think it's so perfect that this money will come back. And Justin and I had done some other work with universities, and we knew it was our commitment to first generation students. And I said, this is what I'd like it to go to. I'd like here, can we do this? And I just thought, where else would the money go except right back to JMU and to help someone? Just, it's so Justin.
And so who happens to be the first recipient of the scholarship?
This young lady, you all can hear us, you can't see us. But this beautiful young lady to my right, Samantha Cornell, who could not embody Justin's spirit more than anyone. It's incredible. I feel like he handpicked her from beyond the veil.
Well, and here's the other beautiful connection. What are you studying, Samantha?
I'm on the nursing track.
Hello.
Big fan of that.
Very
Absolutely.
excited.
And you're going to wind up helping others.
Yes.
Well, and tell us your story as a first-generation student, how this scholarship in Justin's name has helped you to be at JMU.
Yeah, so I was sitting in my communications class when I got this email that I got matched with the scholarship, and it was just like completely out of the blue because I didn't apply for anything. And I sent it to my mom and my stepdad. I was like, this isn't like real, because like every scholarship that I've applied to, it was like you have to write an essay or like some prompt. And then I went on to the JMU scholarship hub, and like it was like, no, like you've been awarded. And it's just been so grateful because like as a first gen, like you don't know like scholarships or FAFSA or like what to do with the application process. And like I feel like a lot of people have family or family members to fall back on, and like it was kind of like just me trying to figure it out, my parents along with me, and it's just really grateful. It really helped.
Well, you know what you're talking about, there's a term for what first generation students have to deal with, and it's called the hidden curriculum.
Yes.
And just figuring out the FAFSA, just making your way around campus, it's a huge burden. And so having this scholarship at least helps you be relieved of one of the burdens.
Yes, definitely.
And what kind of support are you getting as a first-gen student here at JMU?
My parents are very supportive of me and like my family members, and just with the scholarship, it's really helped with like my books and tuition payments, and it's just like been a relief for my whole family. So we're really grateful.
That's awesome.
Well, and how do you feel being connected to this story?
I feel like amazing. Like I didn't know like this huge legacy until like I got their scholarship, and then they reached out to me and I like did research, and it's like it was just like amazing. He's just like this amazing person. It's just like, wow, like I can't believe like I've gotten this scholarship, and it's just really it was really like amazing to get that.
And so what kind of nurse are you aiming to be?
I'm really interested in women's health. So I was looking into that. And then I was also looking into military nurse. So yeah.
Amazing.
And then
Racheal, have you got any words of wisdom for Samantha?
Oh, yes. I already told her. I said, I'll give you all my contact info. We can stay in touch for years.
Awesome.
As you go through your schooling and career, I know a lot of people.
Yes.
And that's what alumni do
Yep.
for recent grads, right?
Yeah. And I have a passion for students too. So I'm so happy that a nursing student got the scholarship. I love it. We need more nurses.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
It's fate. It definitely is fate.
Yeah. I'm very grateful.
Well, I really want to thank the three of you for being on the show. This is so inspirational. And come back to campus, please, sometime soon. Everybody, there was an event today, and that's the reason why the three are on campus. And I have to tell you, there was not a dry eye in the room when the story was told, and you got a standing ovation. It was like
She deserves a standing ovation.
500 people in the ballroom. All of them donors and really involved folks, and they could not have been more enthusiastic about what you three represent in terms of the community, in terms of the university ethos of caring. And I know that when you're out there as a nurse, that Justin's spirit's going to be with you, right?
Yes, I cannot wait.
Probably haunting you.
He had a playful
In a good
spirit.
way.
Yeah.
Tapping you on the shoulder and telling you, don't make that decision. This decision.
You can do it, Samantha.
Well, Dhalia, Racheal, and Samantha, thank you so much for being on the show. And we really appreciate you doing what you've done. And remember, listeners, if you've got any ideas for future episodes of Being the Change, you can reach us at beingthechange@jmu.edu. Until next time, go Dukes!
Go Dukes!
Thanks for listening. Subscribe to hear more stories about how members of the JMU community are being the change. Dive deeper and explore countless other stories at jmu.edu/Madison Magazine. Go Dukes!
The Being the Change podcast was conceived by Jim Heffernan, editor of Madison Magazine, and me, Andy Perrine, head of JMU Marketing. Thanks to Jenna Polk and her team at the Rose Library Studios, where the show is recorded by Cody Troyer, Steve Adderton, and Olive Santos, all of the crazy talented JMU photo video team, who then produced the final episodes at the Ice House in downtown Harrisonburg. Original music by 2019 alumnus Neil Perrine. You can find the Being the Change podcast on all the popular platforms where we hope you'll like, share, and subscribe.